And coming up on the wrap tonight, the president gets bad news regarding his Iran deal. This time not from Republicans. We'll tell you from whom. Hillary Clinton planning to announce on Sunday she is running for president. We'll tell you where she plans to announce. And Geraldo thinks South Carolina police officer who shot an unarmed black man will not face murder charges. We'll tell you why. We'll discuss all that, plus yay or nay, potluck, and Heather's veal Marcella recipe. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the Wrap, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, and joining me as usual is SiriusXM host, Forbes columnist, and the man voted most likely in high school to one day have his own radio show, column, and TV program. Yeah. Co-host Rick Unger.
I just came back from the NRA convention, and boy, am I arms
Good
tired.
for you. You're fired up, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, joining us again after a brief hiatus, because when Maxim magazine calls for a cover shoot, there is no saying no.
That's right.
Heather Hansen is back, and finally, he's Forbes.com contributor and one hell of a nice guy until you get to know him. Bill Tucker is back. Okay, enough small talk. Let's get right to the daily download.
This week, together with our allies and partners, we reached a historic understanding with Iran, which, if fully implemented, will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon and make our country, our allies, and our world safer. This framework is the result of tough, principled diplomacy. It's a good deal, a deal that meets our core objectives, including strict limitations on Iran's program and cutting off every pathway that Iran could take to develop a nuclear weapon.
And that was President Obama announcing an historic deal, the framework anyway, with Iran to limit their nuclear capabilities for at least a decade. Here's more from that end zone dance.
This deal denies Iran the plutonium necessary to build a bomb. It shuts down Iran's path to a bomb using enriched uranium. Iran has agreed that it will not stockpile the materials needed to build a weapon. Moreover, international inspectors will have unprecedented access to Iran's nuclear program, because Iran will face more inspections than any other country in the world.
Okay, sounds good to me, but what does Iran think of the pseudo-agreement? Well, today, that country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, finally spoke about the deal after exhausting his thumbs on the Twitter. And according to the Weekly Standard, quote, Khamenei accused the Obama administration of lying about the proposed terms, being, quote, deceptive and having devilish intentions, according to multiple published accounts of his speech, as well as his post on the aforementioned Twitter feed. Rutrow, the Ayatollah, doesn't even agree to the deal's most basic framework, that sanctions will be lifted once inspectors verify Iran has done their part. The Ayatollah also saying sanctions would have been lifted as soon as the agreement is signed, which is not what the Obama administration is saying. According to Reuters, the affable Ayatollah declaring, quote, the White House put out a statement just a few hours after our negotiators finished their talks. This statement, which is called a fact sheet, was wrong on most of the issues. How about those inspections the president promised? The supreme leader had some thoughts about that as well, and he took to, you guessed it, the Twitter, saying, quote, no unconventional inspection that placed Iran under special monitoring is acceptable. Foreign monitoring on hashtag Iran security isn't allowed. Oh boy. So he's really good at using those hashtags. Anyway, I digress. Senator John McCain proving to be prophetic on the matter, saying this earlier this week on Hugh Hewitt's radio show.
John Kerry is delusional. And he came back, in my view, I think you're going to find out that they had never agreed to the things that John Kerry claimed that they had. So in a way, I can't blame the Ayatollah, because I don't think they ever agreed to it, and I think John Kerry tried to come back and sell a bill of goods, hoping maybe that the Iranians wouldn't say much about it. But look, it's delusional.
Man, Could we find a more get off my lawn photo to run with John McCain than that one? He looks like a nice guy. He looks so angry there. Anyway, gang, this seems to be a major foreign policy embarrassment for the president. What do you think, Mr. Tucker?
Well, you know, we had this conversation a week and a half ago. Why are we holding these negotiations? Why are we talking to these people? And what do we hope to get out of it? And now we know we hope to get an illusion to sell to the American people. And I don't know what motivated the Ayatollah to come out today and say, hey, this is not true. I've thought about that a lot because I want to know where that comes from. But
Heather, is this all bravado? In other words, who has the real power within Iran? I mean, I know he's the supreme leader, but is this just all talk just to kind of satisfy his so-called base when really the folks that were in the negotiating room ultimately have the final say?
I'm sure that is part of it. You know, their culture is a lot of face saving, and there's a lot of that goes into all of these negotiations. But the unfortunate reality is that we need to know what the agreement is so that we can decide, we being our Congress, can decide whether or not to go forward with it. I do think that this is going to benefit those in Congress who want to have a say when they vote on this next week to determine whether or not this is actually going to pass without their say-so. I think it's more likely to override President Obama's veto now than it ever was.
Rick, you're in full agreement as well, I would imagine.
I'm getting such a kick out of this. I've never seen so many people in the United States willing to agree with the supreme commander or whatever the hell he is of Iran, supreme leader. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but they have politics in Iran too. Now, if you happen to notice this, a great article was published in the New York Times about 2 days ago by David Sanger. Here's what actually happened. We now know from John Brennan, who runs the CIA. The president of Iran convinced the supreme leader back at the beginning of all this that if they didn't cut a deal with the West, that the economy was going to totally go down. So the supreme leader says, well, then go ahead. What they're doing now, and it's fascinating, all of the hardliners in Iran have lined up behind the deal, except the supreme leader now comes out and says, oh no, this is devil stuff. Guys, this is pure politics. The supreme leader is actually helping Congress to say yes, because they're going to sit there and they're going to go, hey, wait a minute, if he's so against it, then maybe I should be for it. It is.
I disagree.
You can be disagreed, but it is
We'll
as
see.
pure politics as it gets. I don't know if this deal is ever going to happen. Doesn't matter if you like it or don't like it. But if you're missing the pure politics here, frankly, you're missing all the fun.
It's one thing to say interpretation, though, but the biggest sticking point appears to be if we can't verify, right, then the economic sanctions never are lifted. They're saying day one.
Here's the problem, and this is where Senator McCain
10
ought to take a serious chill pill. The French had a few disagreements with our interpretation, but they were generally in line with it. So are they lying too, the French? I don't think so.
No one's saying they're lying. We're just saying there
they
might
are.
be some
He's saying
misinterpretations
they're
here.
lying and
Coming
everybody
up
wants
next,
to buy into
Ricky, a major political figure will announce her intention to run for president. You'll never guess where. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. And guess who we're going to talk about now? Yes, Hillary Clinton. And if you may recall, she was on Barbara Walters' Most Fascinating People special back in 2012. It's still in my DVR. And let's hear what she had to say then about
Most people are asking now about you is, will you consider running for president in 2016? Would you just like to make your declaration now, and we could conclude this interview?
Well, that would be fascinating to me as well as everyone else. You know, I've said I really don't believe that that's something I will do again. I am so grateful I had the experience of doing it before.
I gotta say, and I hope there's nothing sexist about this in any way, shape, or form. I'm gonna say what I think a lot of people are thinking at home right now. She looked great there, and a lot different than she does now. I know it's only 3 years.
She's working on her Golda Meir look. I keep saying that.
Okay.
She's trying to get that substantial, you know, I may be older, but I'm brilliant.
Okay, maybe the ABC makeup people are what, but I mean, that looked like 2008 Hillary, not 2012. Anyway, going off on a tangent, that was the former First Lady, of course. Senator, Secretary of State, Hillary getting ready to announce her candidacy. It will happen Sunday at high noon. Washington, New York, Chappaqua, oh no, it's going to happen in Twitterland. Yes, we're talking a lot about Twitter today. She will then head to Iowa to start her campaign tour and her tour. Obviously, Hillary will be the first Democratic candidate to officially announce, and there is no doubt other potential candidates are weighing their options today, like Senator Jim Webb, a Rick Unger favorite, who started an exploratory committee. As mentioned yesterday, Hillary has taken some hits in the polls since Senator Rand Paul announced his candidacy on Tuesday. Let's take a look, shall we? Wow, Mr. Paul beating Mrs. Clinton 44-41, leading in Iowa, and Clinton with a 4-point lead in Virginia. Shame that Rand Paul most likely won't get the nomination, but hey, we love doing polls because we're a cable news network and this is what we talk about. Anyway, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who many on the left really think should run for president, gave this not so glowing review of Mrs. Clinton this week on CBS.
Do you think she's the future of the Democratic Party?
Well, I think we have to see, first of all, if she declares and what she says she wants to run on. I think that's really the interesting question at this point.
You know her and you know her positions on most issues. Does she represent the Democratic Party that you believe the Democratic Party ought to be?
Now, I don't think the Democratic Party is a static thing.
Well, let's ask our Democrat at the table. That wasn't...
She's keeping her powder dry. Again, folks, politics.
What does that mean, powder dry?
She's not going to just come out and say, I adore Hillary Clinton until a couple things happen. One, she knows who the whole field is. And two,
Is she in that field?
No, I would be absolutely stunned. She's not going to run for president, but she does want to influence anybody who is. The second thing she's waiting for is, like all good politicians, she wants to know what's in it for her before she stands up there and has a rousing endorsement ceremony for Hillary.
What's in it for her?
So you never know what she wants. She could go into a cabinet. She could extract some promises for legislation in the Senate that she wants. This is the way it works.
Well, and she loses credibility if she says, yes, I'm all for her, when we don't know what Hillary is for yet, what Hillary Clinton is for yet. She has not yet come forward and given us anything. You know, today she printed or put out an epilogue to her book, which is sort of the first step in telling us what it's all about. And it looks like she's going to embrace her womanhood. She's going to embrace being a grandmother. She's going to embrace the middle class and try to sort of go with that. And, you know, she has an uphill battle in that historically. It is very rare. I think it's only happened one time since World War II that after two terms of a president, the same party is elected.
That's right. Yeah, it does not happen very often.
Bill, I think her biggest challenge, you could disagree with me, is for her to clearly define a rationale for her candidacy. In other words, what Heather just listed. Okay, first woman president, that's nice. Oh, she's a grandma, cool. Oh, flew a lot as Secretary of State.
But those are boxes.
Those are little boxes. Right. With Barack Obama, I could at least tell you, while I disagree with him on many things, I knew what his candidacy was about. He was against the Iraq War, and he's going to bring our boys home, and he's going to level the playing field. I could say that in an elevator in 10 seconds when you speak about Barack Obama. With Hillary Clinton, I can't do that.
But I don't know. I honestly, back to the game of politics, and to be really raw about it, I don't know that she has to. She's a Clinton. It's a lot of power, and there are a lot of people who do not want to get in front of her, and they figure, well, I'll make a deal. I'll make a deal, and I'll stay out of her way. Jim Webb maybe is not that guy.
Can I raise a question quickly because we're low on time? Is anybody other than me surprised that she's announcing her candidacy via social media like she did in 2008? Ooh. Didn't work out so well.
Can I answer that? Because I'm the media guy.
Yeah.
This is very simple.
You're the boss.
You're the media.
In 2008, her candidacy looked slow and old and didn't embrace any social media, and that was 2008.
Except that she announced in the same way. She announced from her living room on YouTube. On YouTube.
Much different than Twitter. Now she's trying to look hip. She's got the 35-year-old campaign manager.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what she's trying to do.
I was very surprised she didn't go for an audience.
Will she do a Vine?
But she's...
Will she do a Vine, or will she go Snapchat?
Good point.
Vine?
And you know what's great about Twitter, by the way? I don't have to take any questions.
Well, that's right.
Right.
And she can announce that Khomeini is going to be her co-Twitterer as a...
Right.
Remember, from here on in, we call it the Twitter, by the way.
The Supreme Leader.
Coming up next, did that police officer in South Carolina commit murder when he shot and killed an unarmed black man during a traffic stop? Some are now saying no. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. Well, as most of you know, recently a North Charleston, South Carolina police officer, Michael Slager, shot and killed Walter Scott following a routine traffic stop. Mr. Scott was unarmed. His family will bury him tomorrow. Officer Slager has been charged with murder, but now, following the release of a new dash cam footage and statements from a new witness, the murder charge is being questioned. Why? Because in order for it to be considered first-degree murder, the act has to be premeditated. Was it premeditated? Geraldo Rivera shocked more than a few folks when he said this on Fox and Friends this morning.
The cop with his adrenaline pumping. Now he's been in a physical tussle. Now, the perpetrator has reached for the taser allegedly. Now it gives you the context of his blood boiling. He has done everything professional, and now he's had this civilian has dared to physically have this altercation with the officer. Put that in the officer's head now. I think it saves him from the murder rap.
Meanwhile, the man who recorded the video of Walter Scott being shot recounted what happened prior to shooting the video.
Well, before the video, I saw that he was trying to get away of the taser. And his reaction was just, to get away of the taser.
Was there a struggle over the taser that you saw? Were they fighting over it?
No, he never grabbed the taser of the police.
That was, of course, NBC's Today Show. Heather, Walter Scott takes off out of the car. Officer follows him. Up until that point, from what we've seen from the dash cam video, it was very routine and the officer acted very professional. Now, does that take away the whole premeditated aspect of this?
It is impossible. No one can say. Geraldo can't say. I can't say. The only person who could say is the officer, but even he will probably never say.
There is a lot of video evidence here, though, like we've never seen in big cases like
But
this.
the thing is, Joe, the frustration that I always have with these cases is we try them in the media days after it happens. There's a reason that there is a delay between the act and the trial in the real justice system, because you have to get together evidence. You have to interview the people. You have to, today a second video came forward. There's going to be all kinds of that stuff. So no one can speak to what type of charges there should be, what will be the ultimate result, until all of that evidence has been brought forward and argued by both sides. The grand jury will get the evidence soon. It's going to go, I think, at the beginning of May is the next grand jury. They are going to put it before a grand jury, and then we'll see what kind of charges he's going to face. But for anyone, including Geraldo, to sort of say that they know what was in his head is really outside the realm of reality.
But that's cable news, though, right?
Well,
I mean, we speculate, we watch something, and we say, okay, this is what I think. I mean, that's what the entire industry is based on.
Everything Heather said is correct, but there are some other things that I would raise. For one thing, there are 12 people who are going to have a say, and that's a jury. And that's the say that matters. I'll be very surprised if the grand jury does not swear out an indictment for first-degree murder. Doesn't mean that that will ultimately be what he's convicted of. It can be the lesser included offense of manslaughter. What's somewhat fascinating in this case, most states have a second-degree murder charge, which covers when you do murder somebody in the heat of passion and it's not premeditated. South Carolina doesn't. They have murder one and they have manslaughter. What's interesting is murder one comes with life imprisonment or the death penalty. Right. Manslaughter can be as low as 2 years in jail up to 30 years in jail.
That's amazing.
But I'm not sure intent is going to be as big of a difference. Under the Supreme Court cases for policemen and women, it's different. It's a different standard.
Higher
it's defense
standard.
of yourself and others, and it's also under this Tennessee versus Garner case, the idea that if you think the person is running away and going to cause injury to someone else, you can actually shoot to kill.
That's going to be
so
a tough
that
argument
is going to be.
So let me. A scenario, for instance, would be if Mr. Scott was running towards a playground and there's some kids there and had a weapon, but he had nothing.
He had no weapon, and he wasn't running towards the playground.
So what this police officer would have to argue is that during the time that they were fighting for the taser, he somehow had the impression in his mind, and it's his objective impression, not what we all think.
But we don't just believe him because he
No.
says it, of course.
No, of
The jury
course.
has to decide
and
how
the
credible
evidence
it is.
and other witnesses and the forensics and all of that. But if he's going to have to argue that he objectively believed that he was going to harm someone else, and that is why he shot. And I think that's a better argument than trying to say I didn't have intent.
But it doesn't look, from what we've seen, and there is always more to the story, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to successfully argue
I
that.
agree.
Yeah, look, I'm not a lawyer, but I would hate to see the reaction, what would happen to this country if he somehow gets off, because
he's not
getting off.
But even to your point, though, if he gets 2 years,
look, I mean, that's probably unlikely if he's found guilty of manslaughter as opposed to murder one. I seriously doubt a judge would put the sentence
Bill
that
Lesper.
low.
No, I have to completely defer to them because, like you, I'm not a lawyer, and I find this conversation
we're human
interesting.
beings, and we watch that video and we do have a reaction.
I think, but someone is going to have to answer for the fact, why did this guy fight or struggle with the police officer and then run away? And that, I think, is probably where his defense is going to rest.
He's got a problem, though, because we don't. First of all, you have two different eyewitnesses. One says there was a struggle. One says there wasn't.
Yeah.
Second is he had a taser in him.
Right. And we've got to leave it on that note. Anyway, coming up next, potluck time. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax. Welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's potluck time. This is the part of the show where we go around the table and share our favorite stories of the day. Bill Tucker, you go first for no apparent reason.
Well, thank you very much. I just want you to know, Joe, that I was sitting there today having my lunch of grilled cheese sandwich, and I was feeling kind of depressed and kind of angry about a lot of things. And I came across a really, really important study which showed that lovers of grilled cheese sandwiches are 84% of us lovers of grilled cheese sandwiches will travel. That's more than people who don't love their grilled cheese sandwiches. 81% of us are likely to give of our time to charitable organizations, more again than those people who don't love grilled cheese. So it's little wonder that the real bottom line of this report is that lovers of grilled cheese are more likely to be, well, lovers, Joe. We have sex more often, it seems, and this is not to be taken lightly. I know it was a social media poll, but there were 4,600 people who participated in this poll, and those were the results. 73% of people who love their grilled cheese get sex once a month. 32% get it 6 times a month. So there you go, Joe. That's my favorite story
You're
of the
talking
day.
about a 600% increase of the intimate times if I start having grilled cheese.
Exactly.
Does my partner have to have grilled cheese as well?
There wasn't any mention of that.
It would help.
Because
right?
she loves grilled cheese.
Do you know there's a restaurant down the block that
Melt shop.
specializes
I went there today
in
for
grilled
lunch because
it specializes in grilled cheese. We would be wise to go and try and buy it before too many people
It's
see
already
this.
owned by a great company. They're great business in there because they're owned by the same people of another company I go to.
Well,
but
I called out for
packed
5
today.
of them about an hour ago. I'm still waiting for them to arrive.
Are we missing something here? Because with cheese, you normally have wine. Usually bread,
that's
right?
right. That's
So does the wine work as an aphrodisiac?
You know what? I usually make tomato soup with my grilled cheese sandwich. So
wow,
I don't know.
Does it go deeper?
so
And I don't
Midwestern.
expect you to know this, but is it strictly American cheese grilled cheese that we're talking about?
American cheese is the favorite
Right.
among grilled cheese lovers.
Yes.
And then it goes in a descending order. I think we have a graphic on it. That
We have a
shows what
graphic
it is.
on the cheeses that really?
We might.
Can we
yeah,
put
in
that up?
graphic that was up earlier. But no, it doesn't go any deeper than that.
Okay, I'd love to see that graphic, guys. If we could put that back up again, because I want to know. I got to think cheddar's number 2, right?
I
gotta
think
tell
cheddar
you.
is number 2.
Okay.
Three words are coming to my mind. Slow news day.
No, one word.
It's very important.
Friday.
Everybody needs to know how to get more loving, Rick. Come on.
My wife makes a phenomenal grilled cheese because she puts this fresh tomato on it as well.
That's good. That's
right?
good. Yeah,
and
I
then
like
the
that.
bread she mixes up sometimes. So I don't know whether I'm getting rye.
Sourdough.
Sourdough is tremendous, and we never go down that road really, like we should as a
that?
society.
Right?
Bill, that was the best potluck we've ever had because it pertained to food.
Then we're all going to go get grilled cheese, aren't we?
Among
Melt
other
shop.
things, yes. Okay, well,
I don't
Rick,
wanna
you got to
do mine
follow
now.
that.
I don't want to do it now. I'm out.
All right,
I'm
Heather, you
not
want to do
doing
yours
it.
instead?
No, I want Rick to do his.
Yeah, Rick.
She wants to fight with me. Okay, so if you were watching a few weeks ago, then you may recall that we discussed the story of Seattle and how there's this new minimum wage law. It's raised it considerably higher already at the first of the year, and it's going to go all the way up to $15 an hour. And there's a great deal of concern that this might hurt businesses, particularly the food business, the restaurant business. Now, I made the argument that the evidence was showing that it wasn't hurting restaurant businesses, and certain people on the panel, I'm not naming names,
It
Heather.
wasn't me. It wasn't me that day.
No, it actually wasn't. It was somebody else.
Somebody else.
It was somebody else who was here. I just wanted to pick on you.
Yeah, I know.
We're taking the position that I was wrong. Well, there's actual data out, and if we can put up the first graph, what we see, you don't have those graphics?
Can we put up the
How
grilled
did
cheese
that
one
happen?
again?
Yeah, right.
I'm only kidding.
Well, what we learn is that if you look at the average, of restaurant openings and restaurants over the past, going back to 2012. It has hung right at the average over the time period, even past the date that the wages went up. And in fact, March is higher than it was even in January and February. So that's point number one. There's not a situation happening in Seattle where you're seeing restaurants not opening because of the new minimum wage. The second graph, if we had it, would show that you see a line going straight up in terms of the number of restaurants. It's steadily increased. It's still increasing, and they're doing business. So the facts are now there. Heather thinks she's got a way to argue with me on this. So we'll hear what it is.
Just a couple points from that article that you're right. You are 100% right in the graphs. Yeah. But there's a couple of other takeaways that are just interesting. One is that over a dozen of the restaurants that we're talking about actually added a surcharge on the bill.
And took it away.
But then increased their prices.
Yeah, because they took away tipping. That's why they increased
it.
You got to read it careful.
They took away tipping. That is the final and most important point. I waitressed for a long time and loved it, and I loved having a lot of money in my pocket. These people are only getting $12 more a shift with the increase in wage. I made a lot more than that in tips. So I don't know how well that serves the servers.
That's fair.
Wish we had more time. I leave you with this. A widely cited paper released last year, University of Oxford, researchers estimated that a 92% chance that fast food preparation and serving will be automated in the coming decade.
No
so
doubt.
Watch out. Anyway, when we come back, it's yay or nay. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's time for yay or nay. First up, home is where the heart is, unless that home, in this case a 200 square foot log cabin, is literally picked up off the ground and taken to another location. It happened in Washington State after a family of 4 went for a visit only to find the cabin, as you can see, no longer there, even putting up stolen signs of the cabin. How many times do you see that? Washington State local officials later found the home 10 miles down the road. The family's camping equipment was replaced with the suspect's personal items. No arrests have been made. The family can move back their cabin back onto their property once the investigation wraps up. So here's your question, panel. When stealing a cabin, don't you go more than 10 miles away from where you originally found it? Bill? You're still in grilled cheese land.
I can't even imagine stealing a log cabin. They're really inexpensive to build. It's like just build one.
It's a very good point.
I think if they're moving it piece by piece, maybe they don't want to walk more than 10 miles.
I think, no, they picked it up literally and put it on.
The whole thing by itself?
Yeah.
Come on, admit it's one of the great pranks of all time.
Yeah, but the person even take credit for it.
That's true. It's better than hanging the counselor in the tree, and having them wake up there. That's pretty good.
I think if you put it on a car, you gotta, I am a nay, you gotta go 100 miles away. It's kind of hard, easy to find neighbors. And
maybe they wanted them to find
know what it looks like, absolutely. Anyway, you guys remember Memory's Pizza, right? And the pun is intended. The little pizza store in Indiana whose owner said he wouldn't refuse service to gay patrons, but would never cater a gay wedding. Well, after receiving death threats, Mr. O'Connor, the owner, closed his pizzeria for 8 days, but Memory's Pizza is now back and open for business. This after a crowdfunding campaign raised, get this, about $840,000 from 29,000 donors. Memory's owner says he plans to donate some of the money to charity and even give some of it to the Washington State florist who was fined after refusing to provide flowers for a gay wedding. He's also going to put some of that money back into the pizza place. Wow. I can't wait to see what that looks like. It'll be like the new Arnold's on Happy Days. Anyway, is there any amount of money that would make O'Connor change his mind and cater a gay wedding, Heather Hansen?
No. I don't think so, and I don't, especially now. I mean, he can't do it just for
got
the
all the money in the world.
But I think it's the courage of his convictions. He truly believes what he says he believes.
Rick?
Well, let me tell you, all the information you just told came from an interview that I was a part of last night.
Really?
And I can tell you that this gentleman is completely straight up. By the way, it was his daughter who made the original statement. They are organizing it financially through a good friend of mine, Ed Butowski, who lives in Dallas, but will go anywhere for a good slice of pizza. All the way to Indiana, and this guy's doing the right thing. They are using almost all of the money to help out other people who have had similar problems. The way people reacted to these people was obscene. I'm a huge supporter of LGBT rights, but the way these people were treated was disgusting. They're straight up people, and no, you couldn't pay him enough money to vary his religious beliefs.
As you said, this was one of those rare instances where both sides were right. And it's good to see they're not only not out of business, but people will benefit as a result. So you're a yay.
No, there's nothing that would get him to change.
Okay, I'm a yay as well. Or nothing will change his mind. I just wonder if pizza's any good in Indiana. It's no good outside of Jersey or New York, from what I know.
Ed tells me that Memories Pizza, we're going to do a plug for him. Ed tells me Memories Pizza is fantastic. If you live up there, go in and buy one.
All right. It's a done deal. Finally, boy, we do love dumb criminals here, don't we, at the Daily Wrap? Well, 44-year-old J.B. Silverthorne, that is his name, of Orchard Park, New York, that's where the Bills play, I believe, was charged with a DWI Monday after driving his car into the Niagara River. It doesn't end there. Silverthorne showed up drunk to his court appearance Monday and was told not to drive home. So what did he do? What anyone would do after getting convicted of a DWI. He got into his car and began to drive home drunk after being told not to by the judge. Luckily, he didn't make it out of the parking lot before deputies stopped him. He was later charged with a felony DWI. So, are drunk driving laws harsh enough, Bill?
Yes. They're just some people too stupid to follow the law. It's not a law problem, it's a person problem.
How do you see, before you answer, because you're a lawyer, have you ever seen that in a courtroom where
People
the
coming
defendant
drunk?
shows up drunk?
Oh, sure. Drunk high, yeah, absolutely. That happens more often than you would think.
Do they get arrested on the spot?
No, I mean, there's nothing illegal with showing up drunk or not in your right mind.
I thought there might be some courtroom decorum or something.
I was a judge. I don't know if you know that, but I was a judge in Beverly Hills Municipal Court one day a week for many years, and you wouldn't believe the things that I saw.
Sure. Wow. Beverly Hills, absolutely.
So anyway, I kept cutting you off. Yay or nay?
I think that it depends on the state. I think that we do need to, it's something we need to take seriously. We've talked about the texting and driving, drinking and driving. It's major, major, major stuff, and we need to take it seriously.
Yes.
Your Honor? Oh, you're the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get back to this. Wait a minute. I've got to see your LinkedIn page sometime. You're the entertainment mogul.
A lot of
you're a
it's not on
lawyer.
there.
Ohio State.
That's how I met my wife.
That's how you met your
That's
wife?
how I met my wife.
I thought it was on the Christian Mingle.
No.
J-Date?
My wife came in front of me the day I was judging. She had a parking ticket that had gone long. I let her off of it, made her pay $20.
Corrupt
We
judge.
still have that check.
Wow. That sounds illegal on some level. Anyway, we're out of time. We'll try to do better the next time. I'm Joe Concha saying good night, Canada.